One more minute. I'd like to call this meeting of the Sylva Board of Commissioners to order. The first item on our agenda is to approve the agenda, and I will entertain a motion for that.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mary. We have a motion. All of those in favor, I will let Amanda take the roll.
David?
Yep.
Greg?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Thank you. That is approved. And you also have in your packet a consent agenda. And I would ask for a motion to approve that.
I'll make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you, Greg. We have a motion. All of those in favor, Amanda, will you do the roll?
David?
Yep.
Greg?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, that motion is approved also. Now's the time for public comment. That's a time when anything on our, that someone wants to speak about that is not on our agenda. Do we have anybody, Amanda?
No, ma'am.
Okay, then we will move right along. Reports. I will report that I attended the North Carolina League of Municipalities Board of Directors meeting last week. It was the first, excuse me, in non-virtual meeting, I guess I would say. A lot was discussed, especially about the American Rescue Plan. The only other thing I have, you all should have gotten something about another mayor in our county, Mayor Mike Fitzgerald, who is retiring from Dillsboro, and they're having a drop-in reception for him June 14th. If you haven't RSVP'd, please do. And that's all I have. Commissioners, I'll start with David.
Yeah, I exchanged some emails with Smoky Mountain housing projects that we discussed at the last meeting. So they're going to come June 24th to our morning meeting at 9 a.m. To give a presentation and discuss some options for housing for us. The other thing I have is in our reports that we do in the morning meeting that we added the TWASA report to. Can we add a Pinnacle Park Foundation report as well? Since I'm on their board now and we've been meeting monthly, I think it might be good given the upcoming changes and discussions of changes to the park for me to just sort of give a quick review of what that board talked about at the last meeting, if that's okay with everybody. And question for Paige, have you reached out to the county yet about that the property I spoke about last time with the 2 vacant buildings on it yet?
Don and I had a talk about housing. I told him I would get back in touch with him about which properties you were interested in. Did you send me a list?
Yeah, it should have their PIN numbers in it. I was going to suggest, if you hadn't really talked with them about it yet, to just hold off until we hear from the Smoky Mountain housing projects, because that sort of might dictate our approach to that property in particular.
He and I had a brief conversation about it, but not into specifics on properties. So I'll wait.
All right. That's fine. That's good. Okay. Do I need to send that email to you again? Did it get lost?
No, I'm just behind
Yeah, no, that's fine.
from being gone last week. So I'll be on top of it.
No rush. That's all I got. You're muted, Linda.
What did you say, Linda?
I said, thank you, David. Greg?
Not a whole lot to report tonight, but I did take my class down for some community service, and we redid the sign for the farmer's market at Bridge Park. So that's looking really good. That's really all I have tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Greg. Mary?
I don't have a report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Barbara?
I don't really have a report. I've had a terrific day today, but I did want to tell Jake that I didn't know how talented he was when he got on the front page of the paper with that he's so good with a lasso. So he's got hidden talents. And that's all.
Thank you, Barbara. We all echo that. Ben?
Hey, good evening, everyone. So just a couple things. This month is Pride Month, which basically is it's kind of a celebration of LGBT impact, folks' impact on the world. It's celebrated here in the U.S. in June. We're still working on the Pride Parade, which will be in September here, September 4th. We have got a logo. It's almost there, but this is the work in progress. Excited about everything that's happening, how the community is organizing with that. September 4th is going to be a good day, good family day to be out for the Pride Parade. And also wanted to mention that the 19th of June, otherwise known as Juneteenth, the NAACP local chapter of Jackson County is going to be having a 5K run or fun walk, as well as a bike ride. This June 19th, 2021 will be the 153rd anniversary of the day enslaved people in Galveston, Texas became Americans under the law and has become an observance of the end of slavery in the US. Freedom is a journey we take together as a country, and this race is a reminder of our commitment together. It's organized by the Jackson County NAACP. The race it will start at Mark Watson Park. The fundraiser is for students and scholarships and to help bring the Harriet Tubman Journey to Freedom statue to Sylva on tour. The race has a 1 mile fun walk and also a virtual bike ride. And you can sign up, basically go to the Facebook page, the NAACP local Jackson County Facebook page to sign up. Other thing is, I just happy to announce that I just double checked today. There are 0 inpatients for the first time in a long time. 0 inpatients with COVID at Harris. So the COVID unit is empty, and that's the first time in a year or so that has happened. Other thing was with David, met the other day with the Pinnacle Park Foundation and had a really good meeting with them. Dr. Matthews talked to the foundation as well. And so she's going to be talking to us. I won't get into all of that, but I wanted to say it was great that they're on board the Pinnacle Park Foundation to be working with us on what the future of Pinnacle Park and Black Rock and the trail system is all going to look like. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Ben. Next, we will have the manager's report.
Yes, good evening. So for our ordinance update and rewrite, the process is still moving slower, but we've had Withers Ravenel work more with the planning board on the table of permitted uses. They'll be working on that next week. And one of the consultants met with 3 planning board members to get their feedback on how to improve the process. Since the format's completely different, we've asked them to outline what changes are recommended, what's because of the 160D requirements, and what is new based on our 2019 ordinance assessment. So for the timeline, we won't be finished by June 30th, but we're making an effort to fulfill the legislative requirements. So Eric, John, and I are reviewing the articles individually, and John and I are doing about a weekly meeting on the article that we've reviewed with the consultants. So I anticipate this will be presented to the board in October and hopefully adopted in December. And Dawn Gilchrist has done a great job on the planning board, but has other obligations coming up and does not want to be reappointed. Her term expires the end of August. I think that where we are in this process, we need to wait until we complete the planning board's portion of it to bring somebody new into it, just based off of where we are and what it would take to catch them up. As far as Allen Street, Worcester Incorporated is willing to develop the pre-construction design and cost documents. They initially quoted a repair for the first slide last fall before we had the second section added. They have experience with slope failures and the time to make Allen Street a priority. So we're having a weekly Zoom meeting about Allen Street to keep everyone updated on the progress. But they're going to do two additional borings on Jackson Papers property and add what's called an inclometer reading that will, to those locations that will detect deflections and movements. Also, Alliance Land Surveying did the first surveys. They're going to connect the 2 topographical surveys. So that's where we are with Allen Street. We're still in the process of interviewing and hiring the assistant police chief, and the Main Street Economic Development Director position is being advertised in the paper and also on the town's website. And hopefully we'll conduct interviews in the next couple of weeks. And I have the MSSA chair and a downtown business owner / property owner on my hiring panel. And I'm sorry, I'm going to miss the June 24th meeting, but I will watch it on YouTube. I'm going to be at the North Carolina City County Managers Conference in Wilmington, the 23rd to the 26th. I won't have a manager's report for that meeting, but I'll let you know of anything imperative before I leave town. As far as greening up the mountains, the vendor applications are very slowly coming in this year. I think it'll speed up as more people see that it's advertised and as things continue to reopen. Have Saturday, August 28th from 10 to 4 on your calendar. The first concert on the creek is Friday, July the 2nd. Our town-sponsored concerts are August 6th, August 13th, and September the 3rd. Do you all have any questions?
David?
Yeah, so Worcester Inc. So this is the company that was identified by Civil Design Concepts to do for $30,000, the cost estimate, and those borings are like included in that $30,000 for them to just get more information to get a better, accurate price estimate.
I don't think so, Jake.
Yeah, this company has been identified by us and Civil Design Concepts as a willing partner to move forward. They're familiar with the project. They've bid on it before in its early stages, and they're already working in the area at Western Carolina University. So from a mobilization standpoint, which is a pretty big deal on these projects, they're ready to move forward. they are working on a proposal for these design documents, and we'll have that hopefully by the end of next week. And all that proposal will be payment for their time to develop a plan, time and resources to develop a plan.
Do they need those borings in order to get their plan or something?
Yeah, those additional borings are going to be at the toe of the slope of the big failure that you can see from Chipper Curve, which right now is the big looming question mark. And they're going to come back to the top and do an additional 3 at the top of that slide. So the failure on Jackson Paper property. So those are additional pieces of the puzzle that will allow Worcester to give us the most accurate plan possible. The more unknowns we can take out of the equation, the better.
So have they said how much in addition that's going to cost?
The additional plan, hold on, if you'll give me just a minute, I can have that pulled up. I don't have it.
It's fine. You can email it out later or something.
Yeah, we have the additional geotechnical exploration. We do have those numbers. We just got them yesterday, in fact. And we don't have anything else for surveying and construction at this time.
Thank you, Jake. And any other questions for Paige? Then we will move on. Do we have a fire department?
I have a question.
Oh,
So what's up, fireworks? What's the plan for fireworks?
So they're happening the 4th. The chamber is putting them on at Bridge Park. They'll be shot off the location that they've used in Sunrise Park the last few years. They will go off about 9:30. And there's also a band that I don't have the name in front of me that will play at Bridge Park. I think activities start at Bridge Park at 6:30, and there are food trucks too.
And so it'll be kind of the traditional,
Yes.
no changes or anything. This will be going back to the normal for fireworks. Correct?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Thanks.
now, are there any other questions? All right. Do we have a fire department report?
No, ma'am, we don't.
All right. Then we will move on to new business. The first item on our agenda is the fiscal year 2021, 2022 budget ordinance. We've had our public hearing on that. Paige, is there anything else that we need to know?
No, ma'am, we have not made any changes since you received the formal submission in May.
Then is there a motion to adopt this budget?
I'll make that motion.
That we adopt the budget.
Okay. We have a motion from Greg. Is there some discussion? David?
Yeah, I had a question. So we have that ABC budget approval coming up later on in the agenda, and it looks like they're giving us $160,000 extra this year. Should that not be put into this budget?
Paige, I'll let you answer that. Did we already include it?
Greg made the motion.
I'm not sure that they're hearing us.
Oh, Paige?
Yes,
Um,
I've got a message that said the internet connection was unstable.
Oh, okay, sorry, I'll ask again. I was wondering, we have later in our agenda the ABC board budget, which they're giving us an extra $160,000 this year. I'm wondering, should that not be included in our budget?
No, we'll appropriate that in after we receive the funds.
Their budget's approved, right? If we pulled the funds in now, we could probably use it to offset some of the tax increase, couldn't we?
Well, that's a one-time appropriation that they're sending to us. And when we built the budget, theirs wasn't approved yet.
But surely we have some one-time expenses we could use it for that's coming out of the budget, right?
Yes, but likely what we'll need to do is put that towards Allen Street if that's what the board wants to do.
Any other discussion? Questions? Then I'll call for a vote. Amanda?
David?
No.
Greg?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Motion is approved with 4 yeses and 1 no.
I would like to make one comment before we continue, though. I never really had a chance to bring this statistic to the board, and I want to regarding the police department. David, I really respected that you were trying not to raise taxes, and it was something I did not want to do either. And I really wanted to vote with you on this, but I also, after having Amanda and Paige pull some statistics for me, I want you to know why I changed my mind. In 2013, when I got on this board, I can share these statistics with you later, but on every single year, the overtime was pretty intense for the police department. And every year they've asked for another officer and we have declined their request. So I think this was a building request that didn't just come from Chief Hatton. It came from Davis Woodard. It came from Tammy Hooper. It's something that we've denied a lot of times. And I'm really disappointed that it had to come the year that we did the tax evaluation and change things, because that did hit a lot of people in a way that was unfortunate. And I think every board member here feels the same way. This is not ideal, but it's something that we just have to bite and do. And this is a hard decision. And I just want you to know that this wasn't an easy one, and I'll be happy to share these statistics with anybody that wants to see them. That's all.
Thank you, Mary, for your comment.
I'm in a meeting.
I know that none of us like to see taxes raised, but we have so many issues besides the police officer that I'm afraid we're going to have to take care of, Allen Street being a major one. So thank you.
And David, I felt the same way with you, that we're getting a substantial amount from the ABC board, and why could that not go to fund the police department? But it's a one-time line item. It's not a reoccurring, and the police department is a reoccurring. So we'll be in the exact same position next year, potentially, if we didn't just bite the bullet now. And the Allen Street factor was huge.
Well, sure. I mean, I wouldn't propose that we fund the police department with that money, but there are one-time expenses such as like the sidewalk contribution that would free up $20,000 in our budget. That is a one-time expense. That money from the ABC board could pay for, or the ATV is a good example, another one-time expense. So it could free up money in other places to reduce the tax hike, I think. But yeah, the overtime statistic is also concerning to me. I just don't think it's related to staff shortage. And I think the fact that the increasing staffing didn't reduce the overtime budget, I think it's just training, and you get a call in the last hour of your shift and you can't leave when your shift's up until you've finished your call. So I don't think it's going to reduce overtime, but yeah, I hear you. It's not an easy call. And I think it's a very bad year to be increasing taxes. That's why I voted against it. And I don't like the priorities where we aligned our priorities in the budget either. But thanks for looking into things and doing that research.
Thank you both for your comments. They're well received, I think, by all of the board. Next, we will move to agenda item number 2, which is the fiscal year 2021-2022 fee schedule.
Mayor, real
Yeah.
quick, I'd like to thank Paige and Amanda and Lynn. They worked their tails off on this year's budget, and it takes a lot of work to put this thing together. So I'd like to see them recognized real quick if we can.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you all the staff. I think when we went through the budget the last time, I think we tried to make them aware of how much we appreciated their hard work. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Jake.
sorry. Yeah, thank you very much for all your hard work. And I just want to note too that part of the tax increase too goes to Jake's department. So it's not just Sylva PD.
Thank you, everybody. Now we'll move on to agenda item number 2, the 21-22 fee schedule. We need to adopt that. And Paige, it hasn't changed, or?
This is no changes from the prior year fee schedule.
Okay. So do we have a motion to adopt this fee schedule?
Make a
Barbara?
motion.
I'll make the
Leah.
motion that we adopt the fee schedule for 21-22.
Okay. Thank you. We have a motion. Is there any discussion? Then all those in favor of adopting this fee schedule, please signify as Amanda calls your name.
David,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes,
The motion is approved. Next on our agenda is the ABC board budget, the 2021-2022 budget. It's for review only. So Paige.
Yes, the board doesn't need to take action on this budget. Their proposed budget is $6,315,037.
Thank you. We will move to the next agenda item, number 4, Mill Street loading zone. And Paige, if you will just give us some clarification on that.
Yes, so Dave Hart is opening an antique store at 551 Mill Street. And the current loading zones are in front of, or well, behind Greg's building where Sylva Glass and Mirror was. And then there's another one near Black Balsam Outdoor. So what was suggested to us was we could put we could close the loading zone at Black Balsam Outdoor and move it closer to a more central location, which would be 561 Mill Street. There's a handicap parking space. If we connected that loading zone to the west side of that parking space, then the loading zone could use the handicap accessible curb ramp. And that would be a central location that all the businesses could use on that section of Mill Street. It would eliminate 4 parking spaces there, but they could be added, those 4 could be added back where Black Balsam is. Jake and I went and looked at it and he measured. Jake also suggested, which I thought was a really good idea, closing the loading zone where Sylva Glass and Mirror was and turning that into 6 additional parking spaces on Mill Street. That would preserve the parking in front of White Moon and other businesses that have lots of in and out traffic.
All right. Is there discussion, Greg?
So you guys realize that there's 3 restaurants on the east end of town right now? Like, that's where the deliveries for those restaurants come to the back of my building. And I don't know what's going to go in that, but B1 is zoned for light industry also. And I would hate to lose the east end loading zone for all of the traffic that goes on down here. There's an antique store across the street.
Well,
Any other
could
discussion?
stay where it is, and we could move the one from Black Balsam, which the business owners there said it wasn't getting utilized, and that could move farther east.
I went and
I don't
looked at it.
understand where that is.
May I say something? The two loading zones are actually at like bookends for the parking there. They're both, the one near your building is at the very first of the parking on Mill Street. The other one is right up next to that water grassy place that's on Mill Street at the corner of Spring Street. So I definitely think that one needs to be moved because I've hardly ever seen people in it. But can the one, and how many loading zones do we have on Main Street? Are there more than one in a
That's
block?
another point. Like you don't want the restaurants getting their deliveries on the east end on Main Street because there's no way around them. It's just a really big traffic jam. We're asking for if we close this restaurant or the loading zone on Mill Street.
So
I understand we need more parking, but we've also got town vehicles parked in Bridge Park. I get that, but
So the original proposal in the email was just to move the one loading zone that takes up 4 spaces, and then where it moved from, we get 6 back, so a net gain of 2. And you're throwing on top of that, proposing closing the one down at, nope, I got that wrong. That's how I read that in the email.
So if we would move the one that would take up 4 spaces and open up those 4 spaces where that loading zone currently is. So that would,
So just neutral
right.
number of parking spots. And then what Jake is proposing additionally, that we eliminate the one in front of where Sylva Glass used to be and get 6 additional spots out of that.
Yes.
Right. And I'll point out that businesses are going to ebb and flow in and out of these buildings. We need to look at centrally locating these things. I'm not looking to snatch a loading zone away from ILDA, but ILDA's also not the only restaurant in this town. So if we're constantly faced with the problem of parking in this town, there's things to be considered. And as to town trucks parked in a gravel lot, we lose our parking at our own facility when the pool opens up. That's why they're there.
I know it's not just ILDA though. It's the Cut is opening tomorrow. There's a wine bar there now. Balsam Falls has an entrance on Back Street, very close to that. There's lots of activity down here during the day. And I'm thinking that moving that thing halfway down the block is really going to inconvenience these people down here on this side of the street. I am all for moving the other one because nobody ever uses it. Let's move it down. I also have another idea, which is we're going to get rid of these things on Main Street. What if we took these loading zones at 5 o'clock on Friday and use them in the same way that we're using these Main Street spaces? The temporary spaces that we did for COVID, we're going to lose that. So, I'm thinking that maybe this could be a multi-use space instead of just this loading zone space. What do y'all think
The
about
loading
that?
zone that you're talking about, Greg, is such easy access for the big trucks.
It's
You know.
I mean, it's the one that they use. That's
Mhm.
Will DOT let us, sorry, it sounds like a great idea, but will DOT let us put people in the street? That's always a question that has to be answered.
we're in the street now. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a weird, COVID thing, I think, right? That's my understanding. That was just a temporary.
Jake has reached out to DOT about that.
Right.
About using it for a multi-use space.
Not
About-
the loading zones, the outdoor dining and what that continued encroachment looks like.
Mm-hmm. I don't mean to cast aspersions on you guys parking your things at Bridge Park. That's fine. It's just, we have parking. It's just far away, and that to take a loading zone away that fits a 55-foot semi is not okay for the businesses on this end of the street.
This might be a good use for MSA to reach out to the businesses to see which loading zone they like and what they prefer back there. Do you want to maybe just, it seems obvious to move this one that was discussed for the antique store that in an unused loading zone and move that to where it's more useful. And then maybe do a little more research and involve some more merchants on the discussion about eliminating, moving, or altering the other one, the Sylva glass one.
It's my recommendation that at this time, a fair compromise, if y'all are unamenable to the idea of moving the one at the former Sylva glass, that we move the one at Black Rock, which is not being used currently. We convert the 4 spaces, approximately 4 spaces that we'll lose back. You're basically just swapping. There's no net loss or gain to parking. We won't be gaining any parking, but we won't be losing any either. And I think if y'all aren't amenable to the first proposal, then that's a fair compromise to me.
Can I ask another maybe different way we could do it? Why are there 6 parking spaces taken up by the loading zone at the other end of Mill Street there at where Sylva Glass was? Can it just be 4?
If they're going to have refrigerated trucks coming in and out of there, it probably needs to be 60 feet, which is what it is currently.
Do we have 60-foot ones on Main Street?
I haven't measured the ones on Main Street, Mayor, to be honest with you. I've only measured what we have on Mill for the sake of the current conversation. The smaller one up near Black Rock is 40 feet, and that's what I would plan to do in the interest of preserving regular parking.
But so you're counting on there not being a car in the handicap space because
So the handicap space remains. Well, we're not in a position in this town ever to remove a handicap space.
I think Paige was just saying they could use the handicap ramp, to pull stuff up onto the sidewalk.
Right. We
has
have
a
to,
curb
cut, yeah.
without adding new ramps, we have to plan these types of things around those ADA ramps, which is why we're proposing that location.
Good to me.
Yeah, thank you for listening to that. I'll definitely vote for the moving the other one, the first one.
Okay, so we had a proposal, but now Jake has suggested another proposal and David added to that. So what I hear we're saying is move the the parking zone from where it is up near Black Balsam. It's actually kind of near the back of what used to be Sylva Supply, the farmhouse. That area, move it down closer to where the antique place will be for loading and unloading, and then not do anything with the one at the other end of the street until maybe we can do a survey, David, to see what people think. Is that what I heard?
I mean, I was just going to say we should maybe gather a little more input from the merchants before we eliminate that large one that's right at the end of Mill Street. But yeah, I mean, that sounds good. Sounds like a good plan.
Point out that this is an opportunity to grind up and repaint the entire Mill Street corridor from Ilda all the way back up to Landis.
Okay, so you probably want to know what changes we want to make in their entirety before you go about moving even just one loading zone. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I certainly am not going to start until there's a final decision made, because it is my intention, whatever decision y'all arrive at, to do a wholesale grinding and repainting on the whole everything, because it's old and dated currently, and it's been ground and repainted and painted over, and it's sort of a mess currently anyway. So this is a good opportunity to clean that up and give Mill Street a fresh face from a traffic paint standpoint. But I'm not going to do it until we're in agreement.
So what's Dave's timeline like? Has he got a little bit of time that we could actually just like maybe get some visuals and put together some alternatives that we can look at and kind of grasp it? I got pulled up on Google Map, but I can't really see much.
That
I drove
image is
by
about,
there.
yeah, that image is not very good.
I don't know exactly what his timeline is, but the inside looks like he's ready to open or close to it.
But I mean, is he mind wheeling his stuff a little bit further for?
Temporarily, I can loan Dave some cones and help him getting some spaces blocked off when he knows he's going to have to be loaded while we come to an agreement on this.
So what's the pleasure of the board?
I guess the pleasure of the board is to move forward on the Black Rock location and wait on the Silva Glass location. Former Silva Glass location.
Is that a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion that we move the Black Rock loading zone to the east and replace that loading zone with 4 parking spaces.
We have a motion. Is there further discussion?
So can we clarify? So is that's like the final decision? Jake's can go ahead and grind the pavement and paint and mark all that? No. Okay.
Not yet. Not until we decide if there's going to be a wholesale change or not. Because if I do everything new and then have to go back, it's going to look bad. It's going to cause traffic interruptions. It's going to cause business interruptions. It's going to make noise and dust and everything. If I'm 100% on board with moving the Black Rock loading zone, if the Silva Glass loading zone is under any question at all, let's wait and figure it out after you do your survey.
I would really appreciate that because I'm not occupying that space right now and I want to leave it open. If somebody comes in here and wants to build some sort of 3D printed finial that, they sell on the internet, they need that, they need space, they need that space. And so do the restaurants. So.
And I agree with that.
I would like to have
we
that
can't go
flexibility.
shuffling the loading zones around every time we have a building shuffle either. So
Well, we're doing it for an antique dealer right now. That's what we're doing.
I mean, it does make sense for there to be a loading zone. That's like the one large, open, sort of commercial-looking space downtown where Silva Glass was. So, I mean, is the board okay with just leaving that loading zone, committing to leaving that loading zone where it is, not touching it, and just moving the black balsam one to how your original motion was made, and commit to those being the final changes for Mill Street so Jake can do his thing? Or do we want to have more discussion on that one loading zone? I'm fine with it staying.
Eric?
Doesn't this require DOT approval since we're moving it on their street? So we're going to have to, in other words, the question is I think the motion should be make request to the DOT to do something. In other words, rather than, we can't direct Jake to do this because I don't think we have the authority unless the DOT approves it. I was just pointing that out.
Well, as long as we're not changing the overall traffic footprint, the DOT is not going to have any objection. They will be involved for sure.
I support your motion, Greg.
Okay, we have a motion. We've had discussion. Let's just take a vote and see what everybody thinks. Amanda?
David,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Next is number 5, the resolution to request contingency funds from North Carolina DOT for Allen Street.
So this resolution is a requirement of DOT. It requests $750,000 in contingency funds from the state to help with Allen Street repairs. $250,000 come from representatives and, well, $500,000 total. And then the additional $250,000 is from the North Carolina Secretary of Transportation. The resolution also states that the town will be responsible for the remaining balance. So we need to, if we pass this resolution, we need to account for this. And all this is going to change as we get more final numbers, but the estimated cost is of $1.5 million. We've already appropriated $426,000 into the capital project ordinance. So if we receive this $750,000 that we're requesting, we need to show where the remaining $324,000 will come from. So our two options or different funds are Fisher Creek and fund balance. So I recommend that we appropriate $324,000 from fund balance into the Allen Street capital project ordinance, matching funds for this resolution.
Thank you, Paige. So we will need a motion to.
For the record, what would that do to our percentage?
I think it would Lynn and I have talked about it, and we still think it would keep it 70% or above.
So I'll make a motion then. We pass the resolution to request contingency funds from NCDOT for Allen Street and commit the remaining funds necessary to be brought over from fund balance.
Thank you, David. We have a motion. Is there any other discussion? Amanda, will you take the roll, please?
David,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. Next on our agenda, we have a presentation, and Dr. Matthews, I'm sorry you had to sit through some of our business, but we will give you the floor. Dr. Catherine Matthews, WCU biologist, presenting on Pinnacle Park and some plants and things.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me to speak today about the biodiversity of Pinnacle Park. I'm a professor of botany at WCU, where I've been on the faculty since 2003. When I first came here, Dr. Dan Patillo, who some of you may know, introduced me to many of the natural areas where I could bring my students to learn about plant communities of the Southern Appalachians and to teach plant identification. Most of my field trip localities were 30 minutes to an hour drive away, but one of the finest examples of a mature, diverse forest in the region, just a short van ride away from WCU, is Pinnacle Park. Pinnacle Park is an amazing outdoor classroom with outstanding botanical diversity, where you can experience a huge number of understory wildflowers, ferns, and other herbaceous plants, mid-story shrubs and trees, and mature canopy trees, all in one day, and many of them in one easily walkable area in the park along the Bridge Loop Trail. Hiking the trails into the upper reaches of the park allows any intrepid wanderer to experience expansive biodiversity along an elevational gradient from 3,000 to 5,500 feet, moving through various plant community types, housing hundreds of interesting plant and animal species, along with exquisite natural geological and hydrological features. I'm also a mountain biker, and I love using the mountain bike trails in the area. And while I support the development of multi-use trails in Pinnacle Park, care must be taken to plan for this and delineate certain areas that I believe should remain undisturbed or for hikers only. Today, I'm asking you to consider the value and the optimal uses of Pinnacle Park from the perspective of a naturalist, a hiker, and a conservationist. Pinnacle Park is worthy of safekeeping for the enjoyment of those who live here in the immediate area, promoting as a tourism destination to those who travel here to experience the natural beauty of the area, and protecting and managing as a nature preserve in the vein of places like Pearson's Falls in Tryon, South Carolina, which has a very nice and informative website, whose example Sylva could follow. So I have 4 main topics to cover. The first one is the longest. What and where is the plant diversity in Pinnacle Park? So forest community information for Pinnacle Park can actually be found in the Fisher Creek Baseline Report that the board should have a copy of. It was written by Dennis Desmond in 2007, who was then the land stewardship coordinator for the Land Trust for Little Tennessee for the Pinnacle Park conservation easement. This report clearly explains the conservation value and significance of the area and contains management recommendations. So just briefly to highlight a couple of the report's findings, the natural features of special status in the park include the Pinnacle, which is a high elevation rocky summit that offers 360-degree views, and high elevation spruce forest. Both of these natural community types are listed as imperiled at the state and global level and contain a unique assemblages of plant species. Other prime examples of natural community types found within the park and exemplifying the diversity of habitats there are high elevation red oak forest, northern hardwood forest, montane oak hickory forest, boulderfield forest, and Poplar Cove forest, also known as Rich Cove forest. Each of these is a unique habitat that is home to a different assemblage of plants and animals, including mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, and invertebrates, including insects and aquatic organisms. As an example of animal diversity, so far 9 different firefly species have been observed in the park by Dr. Luis Silveira and his students from WCU, including the famed blue ghost and synchronous fireflies. But no large-scale insect or arthropod surveys have been done, and no mammal or other vertebrate surveys either, although Dr. Amy Rockhill of WCU plans to conduct a small mammal survey of the area starting this year. Due to the broad range of elevation existing in the park, according to Dr. Barbara Ballantyne of WCU, at least 98 species of birds make use of the park, including year-round residents, migrant breeders, winter residents, and migrants. Her list includes 11 high elevation specialists such as the peregrine falcon, which could possibly be nesting on the rocky cliffs found within the park, but no survey has been done to ascertain this. Most of the species on Dr. Ballantyne's list would occur only in the mature forests of the park and not in the surrounding developed areas. A preliminary list of plant species for the park compiled by Sonny Himes of the Pinnacle Park Foundation and also a faculty member at WCU includes 218 plant species. But I emphasize this is just a beginning. 6 significantly rare, imperiled, or vulnerable plants are on her list. These are listed at the state and or global level. And they include the blunt-lobed great fern, the wretched sedge, white monkshood, Carolina wiki, ginseng, and mountain catchfly. Who wouldn't want to see those plants, right? 6 more rare species have been recorded on Pinnacle Bald, which is at the western edge of the park and is questionably part of the park. But a botanical survey to relocate all of these species should be done to monitor and protect their populations and to prevent poaching. Furthermore, a special plant community in the park that had not previously been described in the other reports are at least 2 spring-fed rich montane seeps. These are wetlands at high elevations in the gently sloping areas of the park, characterized by rocky, water-saturated soils withstanding water. They have few woody plants and are mainly filled with lush herbaceous vegetation tolerant of standing water, such as scarlet bee balm, umbrella leaf, and false hellebore. The ecology of montane seeps is poorly known, but they could house unique invertebrates and salamanders and should be surveyed. These areas are tempting to build trails through because of their gentle grade compared to the rest of the park. One of the proposed new Sylva trails, the PP5 trail, actually traverses back and forth across the headwaters of the East Fork of Fisher Creek, crossing right through one of these montane seep areas. But excavating for a trail would damage the delicate ecosystem and degrade the creek and its inhabitants. It is conceivable that a type of boardwalk system could allow access to these areas, but great care must be taken to avoid disrupting the hydrology and damaging the wetlands. While many visitors come to Pinnacle Park to make the strenuous 7-mile round trip to the Pinnacle for the view, people of all ages can enjoy the easiest and most accessible hiking area, the Bridge Loop Trail between the parking lot and the fire circle. This is the Rich Cove Forest area and has the most concentrated wildflower viewing area for activities like botanizing, nature photography, and just taking a quiet stroll through the woods. In my opinion, this spot is simply not a place for bicycles. From April through May, the Bridge Loop Trail area abounds with various trilliums, trout lily, dwarf larkspur, rue anemone, bloodroot, hepatica, foam flower, bishop's cap, red columbine, and many, many more. These are what we call spring ephemerals, wildflowers that spend most of the year underground, but emerge in the early spring to take advantage of the brief period of sunlight hitting the forest floor. They quickly grow, flower, get pollinated, set fruit and seed, and then die away again by the end of May. This flush of spring ephemerals is what the rich coves of the Southern Appalachians are famous for and would attract tourists each spring to areas like Joyce-Kilmer and Great Smoky Mountains National Park, and what brings local nature lovers to Pinnacle Park each spring. But after the flush of spring ephemerals is over, wildflowers continue to bloom throughout the summer and fall. These include Turk's cap lily, Michaud's lily, pink lady slipper, and other orchids, goat's beard, milkweed, and many more. In addition, many species of fern make their home here. And even in the winter, there is botanical interest in the Rich Cove, where one can study the variety of bark of the many tree species, such as sweet birch, black cherry, yellow buckeye, striped maple, and mountain silverbell. So I hope I've impressed upon you the rich botanical diversity that exists in the park. My other topics are much shorter. Topic 2 is, what are some of the threats to the integrity and biodiversity of Pinnacle Park? Speaking of the Rich Cove in particular, this area is especially vulnerable to being invaded by highly aggressive non-native plant species, such as multiflora rose, Japanese honeysuckle, privet, stiltgrass, and others. Given its proximity to the edges of the town property, the parking lot, and given the high traffic of the walking trails there. These non-native plants grow vigorously and compete for resources like light, water, and soil nutrients with the native plants. Many of them climb and grow over other plants or simply crowd them out. Heavy trail use and building new trails and parking areas create soil disturbance and new edges, which are high light areas where these invasive plants most frequently establish. Most of Pinnacle is currently and astonishingly free of invasives, unlike virtually any other trail system in our area. However, some of these invasives do grow along the main road of the park, such as English ivy, multiflora rose, stiltgrass, and kudzu. Relatively recently, a large kudzu patch was cleared from the embankment at the top of the Rich Cove area, but those kudzu vines are still popping up from the ground and need to be monitored. So topic 3, what should be done before any major developments in recreational usage in the park? The town should hire an environmental consultant to conduct a botanical survey of Pinnacle Park. No formal or thorough survey has been done, so it's hard to know where all of the sensitive communities and plant species are that are vulnerable to disturbance, including seeps and other wetlands. We need to know where the rare species are located so that their populations may be monitored for changes caused by environmental change and poaching, and so that new trails can avoid impacting their populations. A botanical survey would also detect any invasive plants potentially gaining a foothold in the park and target them for removal. A basic botanical survey would include a 3-season inventory with multiple visits in each part of the growing season, spring, summer, and fall. targeting each plant community identified and mapped in Dr. Peter Bates's timber inventory report, which the town should have, and the LTLT Fisher Creek baseline report, and search for known rare species. The survey would include analyses of potential impacts to the park, a monitoring plan for rare species, and recommendations for mitigation of impacts given future trail development scenarios. And finally, why is Pinnacle Park worthy of protection in this manner? With a more informative website, the town could promote Pinnacle Park as an ecotourism destination, including checklists of interesting plants and animals to look for. Current trails could be improved to prevent soil erosion into the creek, and sustainable new trails created to allow better access to interesting features in the park, such as rock cliffs and waterfalls, as in the PP3 trail proposed by Sylva, and even consider adding amenities like a composting toilet in the parking lot to minimize pollution on the trails. Preserving, protecting, and treasuring the intactness of the park's biodiversity should be the paramount goal for the town of Sylva. No other public property in the town limits contains as pristine a forest that can be enjoyed by all, and no other contributes as much to the aesthetic and outdoor recreational appeal of the town. Pinnacle is a place for people to enjoy as a quiet respite from billboards, traffic, and noise, a place to explore the woods, play in the creek, and discover a salamander, butterfly, crawdad, trillium, or jack-in-the-pulpit. It is and can continue to be used as an outdoor classroom or laboratory for students of all ages and for walking tours for nature clubs and other groups. Please consider Pinnacle Park as a nature preserve, first and foremost, and honor the original intent of its creation to protect the high quality of the watershed above all other uses of the park. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all of that information. It's amazing what you find up there. Does anybody have questions? Dr. Matthews?
Yeah, I have a comment. So it's very alarming to hear things like, that there's a high elevation bog there and that the Sylva trails go right through it. So it sounds like what you're suggesting that we need to do, and I think Jay is going to talk about this a little later, there's a spoiler alert for other people, is to do a botanical survey before we commit to any, shovels in the ground for trails, because those things could be certainly the richness of diversity there needs to dictate where those trails, if we do additional trails, would go. It sounds like that's what you're suggesting that we have done. Do you have any concept of cost or timeline for something like that?
I think timeline, as far as how long the survey would take, do you mean? I think it could be done in a year. It should be done throughout each of the parts of the growing season, as I mentioned, but it could probably be done in a year. Jay will probably have something to say about the cost, I think.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Oh, like me.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. No, thanks again for coming and bringing this attention. I think, Pinnacle Park is just this amazing place. We're super lucky to have it. I can't think of any other small town like this that has this kind of, jewel or treasure, whatever you want to call it. And it's something that I think that we're going to be able to find ways to take advantage of, and preserve. I mean, that's moving forward. Anything we do has got to preserve what's there. And I'm hoping, and I know we'll find some way that people have access to get out there via trails, multi-use trails, but at the same time, we're going to know where we're going, what we're doing, and because it's a one-time thing. In a situation like this, if you start to destroy an ecosystem, a micro ecosystem, then it doesn't, it doesn't come back. And so we want to make sure that we're treading lightly as we go forward. And thank you so much for kind of bringing this up and bringing it to our attention.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you again. Oh, Greg,
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for coming, and I feel enormous responsibility to the future when we're thinking about this project. And I guess my question is we heard the members on the Pinnacle Park board. Are any of your colleagues involved in that board? Or you?
Is that a question for me?
Yeah, or is anybody on the faculty, botanist, biologist on the board of the Pinnacle Foundation?
Sunny Himes and Peter Bates are on the board.
So it's being looked after and those opinions are being considered on that board.
Yes.
Thanks.
all right. No further questions. We will move on, I believe. I lost my agenda. That we will move on now to appropriately the Pinnacle Park Foundation Memorandum of Understanding. Jay, I know you talked to us a lot about this at a past meeting, but do you have comments?
I do. Make sure my computer is working here.
We can hear you, but not see you.
Okay.
Mayor, can I just say before Jay
Yes.
starts that his email of the memorandum did not come through. I could not open it.
I had to unzip it.
I didn't have that option. I didn't read it, so I'm sorry, Jay.
I couldn't open it either. I tried for about 30 minutes and I gave up.
Can we
And-
possibly table it? Because I couldn't open it either. I mean, that's the majority of.
I didn't have the exhibits either.
You got Windows 98, Jay?
No, it's word perfect. I'm sorry. I sent it in a rich text format, which is supposed to be a Word document. So I'm sorry if you didn't get it.
I would also like to have a little bit more time to process it. Like it came in at like noon today, and I was at work, so.
And let me just say, I'm not here in wherever this is in Zoom world to get you to sign this document tonight. This is a draft. As a matter of fact, Dennis Desmond made some corrections to it, which I incorporated. I thought they were real good corrections, and I was hoping I could get a copy of that out to you to look. It cleans it up, it tightens it up. It's good wordsmithing on his part, and to tag on to what Dr. Matthews said. Dennis Desmond is a member of the board of directors for the foundation. So not only do we have Sonny Himes and Peter Bates, we also have Dennis Desmond, who's on that board. The one, as she pointed out, wrote the Little Tennessee baseline in 2007. So it's not something that we demand to be done this evening. What we would like for you to do is to carefully consider it, and if we can get a vote on it at the next meeting that we have, that would be great. I want to follow up with what Dr. Matthews had to say on a number of points, and show how I think this would work with the town and the foundation in conjunction for the good of the public who uses Pinnacle Park. And Dr. Matthews said this is just the beginning. The idea of having a botanical survey, we think, is a critical thing to move forward with. It's also, we also call it a natural resource inventory in the MOU. Botanical survey, natural resource inventory. And there's another word that you'll find in the MOU, which is very important. That's a master plan. There is no master plan for the use of Pinnacle Park. There is no long-term document that we can rely on to make plans in the future. And there needs to be one. In our discussions Monday night, which Dr. Matthews attended, by the way, one of the points that we wanted to make sure was included in the memorandum of understanding was that this botanical survey be a start for the development of a master plan. You can't make a master plan unless you know what you've got. You have to have an inventory of the species that you've got, of the terrain, of the climate. There's so many things that has to be considered in coming up with a master plan. But we can start with what she suggests, and the foundation board voted to request that of the town of Sylva, that it conduct a master plan. And the start of that master plan would be the engagement of someone who could do botanical survey. How would you go about doing that? We feel that the Pinnacle Park could step in to help do that. That would be a great example of how it would function in conjunction with the town. We need to create what the task is, identify what we're attempting to accomplish, and then we probably need to do some requests for proposals that we publicly put out there for people who would think that they would be qualified to do a botanical survey. That would be one way of getting a sense of how much something would cost and what the timeline would be. And the Pinnacle Park Foundation would be, we think, ideally suited to coordinate getting that done on behalf of the town of Sylva. So if you entered into the memorandum of understanding, one of the things that you would be saying is that you would be authorizing the foundation to plan, design, and coordinate with other entities, and as specifically authorized by the town, to contract and represent the town on its behalf. So we would be asking the town to say to Pinnacle Park, this is what we want you to do. We want you to do a botanical survey, and we want you to do the kinds of things that are necessary to create that project and to figure out how much it's going to cost and how long it's going to take. That's what we'd be willing to do. And the mechanisms of the MOU would also say that we would operate, manage, and administer those functions. But again, all of this would be totally transparent as far as the town is concerned and the instructions that the town gave Pinnacle Park. So we're not asking to usurp anything that the town has a right to do as a municipal corporation in North Carolina. We're just saying that we would be happy to be your agent in getting this done for you. And if you look back in the history of what Pinnacle Park has done over the years, this is exactly what we've done. I'll give you the best example, most recent example that I can give you, because some of you were on the board when I reported to you what we were planning to do, the progress that we're making while we were doing it, and the end result. And that was the new trail that we call the Shelter Rock Trail up on the very ridge itself. That was a trail that was laid out by Alan Farmer and myself with Dennis Desmond, who was the then steward of the conservation easement. It was laid out in such a way that it made environmental sense and it didn't disturb any kind of vegetation or habitat that we could tell would have been detrimental to the park. And then we contracted a excavator from Idaho to actually build the trail. In between that, we contracted with the Department of Corrections and the North Carolina Forest Service to put committed youthful offenders, prisoners, basically, on the trail to clear all the debris out of the way. That trail was very hard to lay off. I mean, it was a hands and knees endeavor at times. And so we contracted to get that trail cut out, and then we contracted to get the excavator in there to excavate it out. And in each instance, before we did either one of those, I came before the board and said, this is what we intend on doing. Here's who we're going to use. And here's what we hope the end product will be. And then I reported to you, we're making progress. Here's what we've done. If you'll remember, we marked it, we cut it out, and we excavated it. And on each of those tasks, we came to report to the town that that's what we had done. So this is an example of how we've worked in the past. And it's only one example of many, many, many other instances where we've done things in the park on behalf of the town. But it was done through the Pinnacle Park Foundation. We think that doing a botanical survey would be another such thing that we could undertake to figure out what that exactly is. With the help of Dr. Matthews, I think we can come up with a pretty good picture of what we want. And then we can come up with an RFP, a request for proposals, and throw it out there for bid and find somebody who can come and do that. Naturally, before we obligated the town to anything, we'd come back to the town and report, here's what we've come up with. Here's through the bidding process, who is prepared to do it. Here's what it's going to cost. This is what we hope to do. This would be the first thing that we would do, and you would authorize us to contract with them to do that. You didn't sign any contracts with the excavator or the bridge. The prisoners are called the Bridge Project. Bridge is an acronym. I can't remember what it stands for, but basically, in both instances, we didn't ask the town to contract. You gave permission to Pinnacle Park to contract on your behalf. So that's what we would think we could do with you fully understanding what that was and what the ramifications for it were and how much it would cost.
Jay,
So
may I interrupt?
yes,
That's not, can we first get you to get us the memorandum of understanding, the new one, and the exhibits, and then I guess we can move on to the master plan and the botanical survey and everything. Is that correct? But the first thing we need to do is get this and get it signed with you.
yes. And let me just say, I'm walking through the memorandum of understanding as I'm speaking. I'm just hitting all the spots that are kind of fleshing out what the text of the MOU says itself.
Okay. Well, thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. And thank you for what you've gotten us. And if you can get the others, and we'll, send it however you think will be best, and we'll get it so we can read it before our next meeting. David, do you have a question?
Yeah, so setting the MOU aside here for a minute, is there any reason to tie? It sounds like Pinnacle Park Foundation is willing to put together an RFP to have a botanical survey done. Does that need to be tied to the MOU? I mean, could we not just go ahead and authorize, how would the board feel about authorizing Pinnacle Park Foundation to write an RFP for a botanical survey and send it out to qualified botanical surveyists? And then, that doesn't commit the town to anything. It just gets proposals back to us to look at to see how much it would cost and timelines and things like that.
It sounds to me like it would be more official if we have the memorandum of understanding in place first. I'll ask Eric what he thinks. should we get the memorandum of understanding to us so we can all read it before we start on RFPs?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we can't do an RFP until at least through the Pinnacle Park until that's accepted. So there's a couple, I've just glanced briefly at it. So would like to have the opportunity to meet with Jay and Paige and any other members on the Pinnacle Park Foundation board to see where we are before we present maybe a final version to the board.
I want to see all of this done, but I want to see it done in the correct order. So we're official with the Pinnacle Park. Is that okay, Jay, if we?
Sure. I mean, like I said, I'm not pushing for this thing to be signed tonight, but I will say that I get the gist of where we're moving. And I think that probably with your permission, I'll go ahead and take some steps in that direction.
And maybe you could bring both documents to us to our next meeting.
Yeah, and I thought when I talked with Amanda about it, we talked about me scanning the document and sending it to you versus sending it through an email, and we chose the email part, and we should have sent the scan, I think, instead, because the email obviously didn't work.
If you can make it a PDF, sorry to interrupt. If you can make it a PDF, I think that's pretty easy for everybody, pretty universal.
Yeah, I thought the RTF would switch it into a PDF. So
you're still going to have to email it to me, but either email it in a Word document or a PDF document.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a Word going to everybody. So
Yeah.
That's what the RTF is supposed to do.
Yeah. Let me see. Greg has a comment. Greg?
Yeah, maybe this is for Dr. Matthews or you, Jay. Have there any of the trails around that exist now, did they do botanical surveys of the land before they open the trails? And if so, what has been the impact of bicycles on those trails? And if not, that's too bad.
I don't think that any trails have been assessed with a botanical survey in hand. I do know that the Shelter Rock Trail that we built was built under Dennis Desmond's tutelage. But we didn't have a botanical survey in hand to base where we put that trail. We put it based on what he felt as the environmental steward would be a good place to put it. Hopefully it would eliminate the trail that is such a straight up down ecological disaster over on the other ridge. This is a much better trail.
Okay.
Thank you, Jay. Ben.
So just as far as Dr. Matthews, as far as the people being on trails versus mountain bikes being on trails, I mean, is there a huge difference? I know once it's about where you build the trails, first off. And of course, there are going to be certain areas you don't want mountain bikes, going through. I think that, just for aesthetics and, for like peaceful areas where folks are going to want to sit and just kind of be out in nature. It would be nice to have those are walking trails only, which is totally doable. But just in general, would you say that there's more impact bicycles versus foot traffic, or how does that work out?
Mountain bikes have the potential to cause more erosion, particularly if trails are used in wet, muddy conditions. The bike tires can cause erosion, especially depending on how people ride, whether they're banking or doing things that kind of dig into the soil. That's mostly a problem in wet conditions, but that's a lot of the time around here. So yeah, mountain bikes definitely have the potential to cause more erosion on trails than just walking.
But also, I think also that goes back to the trail building itself too. The construction of the trails, I think, I'm assuming can take that into account and build trails, because some of these trails that are proposed, one of the benefits of them is actually to avoid, to bypass some of the terrible erosion trails that are out there. So I'm guessing that I'm not a trail builder, but it might be something some questions that we can ask too, and we should ask.
Definitely. I think that the current trails are not ideal in terms of eliminating or minimizing erosion. So I'm any kind of better sustainable trail system would be ideal.
Thank you, everyone. I'm just trying to be aware of the other presenters we have on our agenda. So if everybody's okay, Jay, you will get the new version of the memorandum of understanding so that Eric can look over it also. And if you can go ahead with an RFP, and maybe we can put those on our morning agenda next.
That's what I was going to say. I'll have that ready for y'all tomorrow, and then we can be on the agenda, which is your 4th Thursday morning.
Yes, it is at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And thank you again, Dr. Matthews.
I'm sorry, one more thing. So the botanical survey, should we start moving forward with that? It sounds like no matter what happens, like even if nothing happens, we should have a botanical survey. What's the kind of suggestion on that?
I think that we just said we're going to get the memorandum of understanding so we're all legal with the Pinnacle Park Foundation, and he will also bring the RFP for the botanical survey.
Cool. I just wasn't sure if that was something the town was just going to do on its own, but that's fine.
Yeah, let's let the Pinnacle Park Foundation maybe do that too. Is everyone okay if we move on to agenda item number 8? Okay, Certified Forest Therapy Trail Memorandum of Understanding. And I apologize to you all that you're last on our agenda, but I'm sure it will be good. So Nick, if you will introduce Mr. Ellison.
Good afternoon, Town of Sylva board members. It's great to attend the meeting and hear so much good activity about our treasured Pinnacle Park. I've been going there for 30 years now, and it's unique in that every time I go to pick up litter at parks that I visit, whether it's Whiteside Mountain, Pinnacle Park, and Pinnacle Park remains one of the cleanest parks. I think I picked up 2 plastic bottles out of a 7-mile hike last time. So terrific news there. Just to give you a brief overview of the TDA's involvement with Pinnacle Park, we did just install bear-proof recycling containers there. We worked with Jake and Paige on that so people can safely dispose of recycling at the park. We do have leave no trace signage that the TDA funded that Jake is going to install at 3 different locations within the park with the 7 principles of not leaving litter behind. So we're heavily driven by our responsibility to the environment. My goal as a tourism director is not to bring more and more people here, but it's to bring people here who are like-minded like us, who want to preserve these great spaces for years to come. Also, I would mention that every year we fund trail maintenance in Pinnacle Park. So this forthcoming year, we're funding that to the tune of $1,200. It's very expensive to maintain these beautiful trails. And I know Jake Howard has been working with us for a number of years on the maintenance. So thank you, Jay, for that. So the topic before us today really is a certified nature forest therapy trail. And we sent out materials in advance of the meeting. I hope you received those, but really it's an ecotourism offering. And it was great to hear Dr. Matthews speak about that being one of the primary purposes and goals of Pinnacle Park, because we want people to come there and experience it as a destination for wellness and health. And that's exactly what the Certified Nature Forest Therapy Trail program does. We're fortunate that we have Dr. Ellison in our community. He works at Southwestern Community College, and he can actually certify the park trail itself as a forest therapy trail. The good news is we're not asking for any funding or any alterations to the trail. The only requirement of the program is that there be a sign placed at the entrance to the trail. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mark, who can speak better towards the program and the process involved.
Okay, thanks, Nick. And thank y'all for having me this evening to be able to talk about the Certified Forest Therapy and Nature Trail. I'm a resident of Jackson County. I've been hiking the Pinnacle since the 90s, and I've hiked it hundreds of times. And as Dr. Matthews and Nick have described, it's a special place. And I've been offering, I approached Paige and Nick a few years ago about possibility of offering guided forest therapy walks there. And I was looking around the county at places that would be good locations for guiding forest therapy walks. And one of the things you need to have for forest therapy is a place that's accessible to people of all ability levels. And so it doesn't limit people based on having to climb a lot of hills, and just having a lot of biodiversity and water and a forest setting. Pinnacle Park offered that. Primarily the lower trail system there that you can do around the creeks. So I've been offering walks over there for a few years, and I've offered walks for people who are ranging age from 18 to over 80, and so it's offered people of all ability levels an opportunity to get out into nature. And I think that's the beauty of Pinnacle Park, that it offers that opportunity to escape into nature to all people. And so I became connected with forest therapy back in the I guess it was around 2010. I was working on my dissertation focused on the restorative benefits of spending time in nature. And I came across this practice over in Japan called Shinrin-yoku, or forest therapy, which is just immersing yourself in the natural environment to experience the health benefits of it. It doesn't, it's not where you're trying to cover a great distance. It's not, it's about slowing down. It's about disconnecting. It's about connecting with the natural environment and being able to develop an appreciation for it, and an understanding of the importance of having a healthy natural environment to help sustain our own health. So that's what it is. And so a guided forest therapy walk, which is what I do, that's where I provide invitations to people to experience nature in their own way. But I'll provide a 2-hour walk where they can experience that. The beauty of having a certified forest therapy trail is that people would have prompts provided for them, whether it be through signage or through a brochure that we provided at the trailhead, that they could walk it on their own and experience those benefits, and experience that park and the tranquility that it offers on their own schedule. And so it will open up to more people to be able to experience it. So again, forest therapy it's a low impact activity. It doesn't require, there's a low barrier of entry. You don't have to buy anything special to be able to go out and do forest therapy. You can just go out to the trail and experience it. So it's a good way. Also, having a trail being certified is the county can market it for as a destination for restorative activities in nature. And so that really is kind of an emerging ecotourism offering that people are looking for. It's places just to escape to. There's so much noise in the world. There's so much activity that you can step into right out of the parking lot in the Pinnacle Park, and you're immersed in the sounds of the water, and you're in the forest, and you feel like you're miles away from activity. And that allows people who only have a little bit amount of time, or maybe have some limitations in their how far they can walk, to be able to go have that kind of experience. And having a certified trail that is designated as offering those kind of benefits will attract people, but also provides a wonderful resource to those of us who live in the community to be able to go out and do that. And so the process of certifying the trail is not complicated. I've gone through the training program to certify a trail, and I can lead us through the process. It really is just making sure that the trail system meets the qualifications that they have for having forest therapy trails, and then submitting that information to them. As I said, I've hiked the trails hundreds of times. It's the perfect setting for a certified forest therapy trail. There's not a place that can be any better. You have the water, you have the accessibility, you have the trees, you have the quiet. It's not going to require any changes. It's not going to require an investment from the town to do anything. It's just going through the process, getting the designation, being recognized by the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy, which coordinates the certification process, and then being able to promote this as a wonderful place for people to come experience. And so that's what it is. So I'm here just to answer any questions, and then to seek approval for the MOU that's been submitted.
David.
So I just want to be clear that this MOU is in no way authorizes you to take any actions or make any decisions or do any changes to the park. It's really just us authorizing you to apply for this certification and act as the go-between between us. We maintain all decision-making authority and everything.
Absolutely.
Correct. Can you add I guess the question for Eric, should we add a termination clause to this that we can terminate this MOU with notice at any time? I think that's pretty typical in these.
I just got to review this one today, and I guess I'd need to understand how that would interact with the Pinnacle, if we're going to go with the Pinnacle, because some of it seems like it might be a little bit, it might be in conflict. For example, on the, looking at the Pinnacle one, but in view of the other one, it also said something about maintaining trails. So we want to make sure that they don't conflict with one another. So I think we need to review those kind of together, so we don't have one group suggesting that they're in charge of. Town of Sylva agrees to work with the trail consultant on recommendations related to future trail improvements. And that's kind of what we were going to get consultation from the Pinnacle Park Foundation for. So I just want to make sure that I would not want to pass this just yet until we can figure out how these work in harmony together if they're both going to be passed.
Yeah. And I understand that, Eric. I can tell you that as far as my recommendations, there's not going to be any. I've walked it, and there's nothing that needs to be done to the trails. And if we need to reword that, we can. But the trail is in the condition that it needs to be to serve as a forest therapy trail.
So it sounds like we can have Eric look over this, make any edits, and bring it back to us at the next meeting. Does that sound good?
That sounds great to us. There's no rush on this. We just wanted to get it in front of you.
Yep.
One of the things that I like most about being up at Pinnacle is there's no signage at all. Like there's like Loop B goes this way, and that's it. Like I don't want any more signage. It's fine to put your sign at the bottom of the hill. And I think this is a great idea, of course, given the problems that we have in this world, this is an awesome idea for refuge. But like up on the trails, I just don't want to see any more anything but wayfinding. That's it.
I understand that. And so another option would be just to have a brochure that's available for folks at the information station there where they park, and they can pick that up if they want to.
It sounds like this would be a good fit with the Pinnacle Park Foundation. So maybe all of this can work together. And as Eric said, he could work with you on this document, this memorandum of understanding, and maybe we can get all of you together and have, it'll be great to have those kind of things, because I really enjoyed reading some of the things in this about the forest therapy. So
I'm happy to work with the foundation however they need.
So is it okay with the board if we also let Eric look at this one, and at our next meeting, which is Thursday, I don't know the exact date of it, but have them, if y'all can all come back if you want to, and present yours with Jay. Is that agreeable?
Yes.
Okay, is it agreeable to the board?
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you all so much. It sounds like we're gonna have a place that really everybody wants to come to. So that is the last item on our agenda. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion that we adjourn.
Okay. We have a motion to adjourn. Amanda, would you take our roll?
David?
Yep.
Greg?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Barbara? Barbara?
Well, muted. I didn't
Sorry.
realize. Yes.
Okay. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.